Japan was just so good. I mean, they deserved the win. They were outstanding all three games. No one ever wants to lose, but I think it was good for them to see what that felt like right now. That was some of the stuff she said to us too at the end, was like, no, I want them to remember what this feels like. It sucks. And I want them to be able to say, okay, the next time you play Japan, the next time we play a tough team, we're going to remember that, and we don't want to feel that way again.
Welcome to the Soccer Podcast USA. We are right off the heels of the She Believes tournament, where unfortunately the U.S. women's national team did lose 2-1 to the ever decisive and fundamentally sound Japan. For many, this may feel like a loss, as they're used to seeing the U.S. women's national team win. However, is this more of taking one step back to go two steps forward? Join us as we talk to Shannon Boxx for the Boxx Report to understand what's happening in camp and where we're moving forward. Ladies, gentlemen, welcome to the Soccer Podcast USA. I am joined by none other than Shannon Boxx, World Cup Olympic gold medalist, U.S. women's national team player, and she does not know this. This is the one player that I feared refereeing coming into the FIFA international level. I am a defender, but she intimidated the hell out of me, and I loved stepping onto the field with her because she was strong, she was dynamic. When she missed in a tackle, she missed on purpose. Let me just put it that way. Like it was deliberate, but it was solid on how she did it because it wasn't injuries. So Shannon, I have never told you that, but you were the most intimidating footballer, top 3 I've ever had to referee.
That's
so
amazing.
Welcome to the podcast.
And I'm really nice. I am. I'm not intimidating. I'm a really nice person when you get me off the field.
No, and even on the field, it was like professional. It was just like you were the enforcer, and I always appreciated that from you. I was just like, God, I wish I could play like her. So, really looked up to you. Had the honor of refereeing you, and just seeing your career. So, thank you for everything you've done for the game.
Well, hopefully I didn't yell at you too much. Don't remember.
It's never personal. Yeah, no, there's only like 1 or 2 that distinctively stick in my mind in the sense that it got
this
personal.
Is for another day.
That's another day over a glass of wine and maybe some therapy.
But. Yeah, there we go.
Thanks for joining us. Shannon, as you guys have seen, is now commentating for HBO TNT, covering the men's and women's national team. I like to call this the Boxx Report. We're going to get some of her thoughts here on the She Believes Cup that just wrapped up, what we've seen, what Emma's campaign is going to look like now that we've entered a new cycle. It's crazy to think that like Emma's now starting after she's won a gold medal. But yeah, we're going to get some of Boxx's thoughts here, but we're going to cue it up and we're going to listen to a quote or a statement from Emma, who joined us for our first ever U.S. Soccer Podcast, and then get Boxx's thoughts on that and what she's seen.
Taking on a team like the U.S. women's national team, we all know it's sometimes an almost impossible job because everybody expects the team not only to win, but win by multiple goals, win multiple championships again and again and again. But the reality is the gap has closed in the women's game, and everyone from Spain to England to Germany, I think, demonstrating that I think one team dominating at the top is long gone, and that's a healthy place.
As we just heard that from Emma Hayes, right, what you've seen, what you felt, you've been around, how does that comment hit you?
I mean, I think it's exactly spot on. I agree with her, with the U.S., the history of the United States is that we win. And the culture is a winning mentality. And I think that's always going to be the case. But when you play any team now, it's not a sure win. And I think that's kind of what Emma's really trying to get at, is that, you can go into any match and it's going to be a tough game. And I think that's what we want. We want the gap to close. We want the competition to be tough every single time that we play. We want more countries to be building up. I mean, Julie had such a great interview with, about Colombia and like the pay gap. I mean, there's still those gaps, but it's like when we just think about on the field, it has closed, and you're seeing that every game is going to be a tough one. So I think for her, she's seeing that, and her focus right now, being in an off year, is that we need to develop the U.S. We look at our youth teams, we haven't won in a long time. And 2024 was the first time, finally, U20s, they came in third. But you're starting to see these other countries like a Japan. They've done well in the youth programs, and these are the players that are now on the full team, and you're seeing how good they are and how connected they are that's because there's investment in them as youth players and into that next step.
So a couple over the past 3 games, a lot of regular, we always talk about the Triple Espresso, right? And they're not there, and there's new faces that are entering in. What are some of those that have surprised you, the new crop coming in, or at least seeing that gap in some of the players there?
Oh my gosh, so much talent, first of all. I mean, every single player that was in camp is magical, and they're so young. I think that's what you forget is that, you have a 17-year-old, you have 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, and they're 19, and they're so much further ahead than we were years ago when I was playing. And that is such a positive piece to this. And I would look at Ali Sentnor. You look at Lilly Yohannes. I mean, these are players. I love Yazmeen Ryan. I love the way that she plays. Emily Sams, who is not as young, but like is just getting into the mix, and I think she is great. And that's it. We need depth within this team. You look at the Triple Espresso; they're not there. Who else is going to score goals for us if something happens to one of them? I think that's Emma's idea is, hey, like, we aren't 100% sure, right? Like, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. Who could get hurt right before a World Cup or an Olympics, and who's going to step right in, know Emma's style of play, know how they have connections with other players around them already. All of this is going in her head right now at the perfect time, so that in 2-3 years, this team is completely ready with a backup of players as well.
So you had access to be able to see being in camp and talk to Emma. What is your kind of style of play? Do you feel like it was executed, or what was executed well, and things that you could see that they're still working on that's now like the Emma's philosophy as opposed to the previous?
She's been really very open about saying, hey, I'm layering in more and more. So I don't even think that we've seen all of what Emma really wants to do with this team. But she's so tactical. It's so much fun listening to her, of what she's trying to do. But she really does. She wants this possession-based team. She wants to be able to mix in what the U.S. is already really known for, which is that transition game. But she also wants them to be able to be patient and bring the ball around and find the right moments, when to go forward and when not to. And so you're starting to see that. You're seeing the build out from our goalkeepers. You saw Mandy and Jane using their feet a lot in the build out and using that spare player. So those are just some of the things you're starting to recognize. And it's not just the younger players who are learning her new system. It's every single player. It's even the Triple Espressos and the players that aren't here. They're still in that phase too of layering in these new things into their game.
So you hit the comment. I think it's correct. And, Emma and I have had this conversation of how the England men's national team has this complete crazy expectation that they win every single game, right? That they win every final. And I'm like, well, they kind of haven't. So it's kind of funny that they, but the U.S. women's national team have. And I had done some men's Euros with the England, with ITV, and the similarities to me were so crazy, where the U.S. women's national team, if it's not gold, right, the crowd turns, right, the soccer world
failure
turns.
pretty much.
Yeah.
It's always seemed like that as far as players and coaches. What a hard team to coach. Yeah.
And then the
difficult
fans,
job.
right, the every 4-year fans who turn because they celebrate you guys, and then all of a sudden they're disappointed. So how, if there's a way, and this is just a question, but it's like, how would you reconcile, which we know from a technical and a footballing development standpoint, that sometimes, like a bow and arrow, you have to pull back a little bit further before you go farther, that we can reconcile this kind of, I don't know if it's unrealistic. I think we kind of love it too here as being U.S. Women, is this expectation we got to perform at every single level, but at the same time we have to develop. How do you think you can reconcile, or she can reconcile, or at least the
that's
media?
Been a question we've asked. Obviously being with Turner and having to like go on air, and that's been a great question of like, how do you balance that? Hey, we need to deepen the pool, but we also want to win. And I think that came across in this tournament really well, and I thought she handled it so well, because obviously she got every single player to play, so there's created a lot of opportunities. But in the end of the tournament, like, they wanted to win against Japan. They wanted to win the championship, and that's part of it too. You're giving these young players an opportunity to be in a tournament setting, and you want them to have to go for something. That you want them to have that mentality that, hey, this is a game. This is what we win the whole thing. We lose, we go home. And so I think it was overall, the She Believes Cup was just such a perfect environment for a lot of these young players to experience a lot of different things. Getting their first caps, playing against three high level teams, ending it with Japan having to win, where Japan only had to tie to win the championship. So to balance that out, I think it's timing and it's figuring it out. And right now is just the ultimate time to be able to develop as many players as possible. Obviously, as you get closer to, qualifications and World Cup itself, things have to change. It has to become more of that winning. But one thing I will say, the culture of the national team is that winning mentality is going to be there no matter what. Because every single game, even her changing the line of all 11 players from one game to the next, those 11 players' mentality was to win.
Yep. I think you hit in the head. It's pretty badass to know that basically the development of the second player, people like to use the word B team. I'm like, I didn't like that terminology. It's like, not at all. It's like, if that's our B team did very, very well against an A team of Japan, right? Into the security. So,
I think all the players played really well, and I think Japan was just so good. I mean, they deserved the win. They were outstanding all three games. And, I think it's good for them. No one ever wants to lose, but I think it was good for them to see what that felt like right now, not later, but now, and be able to say, okay, take that. Don't forget about it. Don't let it go. But remember it the next time you play Japan. That was some of the stuff she said to us too at the end, was like, no, I want them to remember what this feels like. It sucks. And I want them to be able to say, okay, the next time you play Japan, the next time we play a tough team, we're going to remember that, and we don't want to feel that way again.
Exactly. Boxx, thanks. I know the Boxx report was going to be a little bit of a quick one. I can't wait to have you on again. For those, obviously, many of you guys watching this obviously know who Shannon Boxx is, but also go follow her and learn from many of the things that she advocates for. A huge advocate for lupus and finding the cure for it. So you haven't heard that story, we're definitely going to have her back on to have a deeper conversation on that. And as well, founder of the Ethos Mentality Group. I know you and I still got to connect on that, because I find it now, managing a locker room of 24 professional athletes, how much more goes into that aside from signing their player contracts and say, go get it. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for continuing to champion, on the field, off the field. And it's such a blessing to have your voice on the airs, guiding the next generation of fans and the growing game of, how to look at the game. And to your point, how to look at the game in more of a football, higher level understanding.
I appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thanks, Shannon. All right, for those, follow us on Soccer Podcast USA, all of those different kinds of formats, as well as on YouTube. And in the comments section, we will drop Shannon Boxx's lupus advocacy that she does, as well as those Mentality Group. Thanks all.